we went our separate ways, and not a week later he called me and he said, "Hey, we have an opportunity in Boulder, Colorado. Do you want to make this happen?" And I said, "Yes." It was like I was born for this moment, you know? It was like I've been nonstop for the last 5 to 8 years of just getting to the place where I'm competent enough to do what this guy's about to ask me to do.
Sennheiser Podcast with Sam and Mitch.
Welcome to the Sennheiser Podcast by Inland Film Co. My name is Sam McGhee, sharing hosting duties with Mitch Williams. Today we have a special guest, a longtime internet friend of mine, Julien Jarry. This episode was recorded in December of 2019 before all hell broke loose in the world. I can't tell you how many times Julien has texted me and asked when this is going to go live. So to Julien, I'm sorry it took so long. In this episode, we talk about how valuable a film reel is and being confident in direct messaging businesses and people you'd like to work with. Julien walks us through the projects he's worked on over the years, how he got his first gig working with Sennheiser, and eventually his dream job filming with OceanX. One thing to note before we get into this episode, I did fail to notice Mitch's mic clipping throughout the recording of this episode, so bear with us on the lack of audio quality today. Enjoy. That's such a delay.
I knew it was going to be a delay.
I like it. So. Let's try it again. Wait, just for the fun of it. 3, 2, 1. Almost. We were close. I like it.
We're going to have a good basis there.
There's a good basis.
I can do this, you can match, you can try to match.
I'll look for that.
So, you and Sam had a call this morning. It sounds like.
No, we were just
texting,
DMing.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Regardless, you were waiting for this call at 10 a.m. Eastern, and
yeah, it was my bad. He did the Pacific Standard Time was, it was my fault for sure. I didn't see it.
I feel bad.
If I wanted to blame him, I could have said he should have done it in all caps.
Oh, damn!
There
you know
it is.
what?
There we go.
So, okay, I'll take it. I'll take that.
There we go.
We have a project we're working on for a manufacturing company. One of their plants is in Guadalajara, Mexico. So we did some digging with our filmmaking friends on the world of Instagram and found we asked a couple different people if they would be available. We know they're down in Mexico, and then through asking person after person, we finally found one person. Mitch landed on somebody who would be available to go to Guadalajara. They had a whole long...
Available in Guadalajara.
Available in Guadalajara. That's amazing. So we had a whole long email string with the manufacturing plant, the plant manager, with the manager of the facility up here in our town, with the cinematographer in Guadalajara. There was a whole thing. And then in the end, he said, we're going to need to talk
address.
about the address. And
so I sent over the address, and then he responded on the public thread, to the manufacturing company and everything. He goes, I'm in Guadalajara, Spain, right? I'm like, crap.
Oh, gosh.
So followed this rabbit trail too. And I didn't specify Guadalajara, Mexico. So you need to caps lock your PSTs, your Pacific Standard Time.
now I got to go add to our
and I
post-it
need
note.
to specify the country.
Specify
of
the
city
country, capitalize PST.
or the state.
Perfect.
Big time.
Yeah. So that sucked. But let's start by who are we even talking to today, Sam? We got Julien Jarry. Am I right with pronunciations here?
Yeah, everybody says Jerry, but it's Jarry.
Jarry?
Okay. Wow.
I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad I asked.
I thought it was a dumb
Jarry.
question to ask, man.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah, that's good.
I haven't had the honor of chatting with you really much at all. I know Sam and you have gone back and forth. We're just happy to have you on here today. Can you tell us about who you are and what you do in the filmmaking world?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on here again. My name's Julien Jarry. I'm fortunate enough to do what I love almost every single day, which is shoot video and take pictures. And it's been a long journey, and I still feel like I'm a young filmmaker. I still feel like I have yet to, I'm really happy with what I've done and where I am. It's hard to not want more, and not want more like you need more because you haven't had enough yet. But I just desire for more experiences, and I desire to tell more stories. And so that's what I do. I'm based in Connecticut, which is not too far out of New York City. That's what I tell people. It's only about a 30-minute train ride, a 45-minute car ride. It's really easy. I'm basically in the city, but it's in the suburbs, and it's a really nice place. You have the water and the forest and a nice little town, but you could be in the city in 45 minutes, and it's just a really cool place. Just fortunate enough to have known a bunch of good people that, I always tell people, and it really is the people so just have, since growing up here, just have a lot of connections, and people have seen that I've been really passionate about photography and filmmaking, and I share that work, and I've been sharing that work for 10 years on Facebook and stuff, and then people come out of nowhere and just say, hey, can you shoot us a video, or can you take pictures or something? So I've been, in recent years, definitely the climax of my career so far, have been fortunate enough to do a lot of work for Sennheiser, which is a German microphone company, and then OceanX, which is a giant nonprofit ocean climate environmentally based nonprofit that has a 180-foot boat that's building a 250-foot boat. It's just absolutely insane. And the fact that I got to go on that boat and shoot was amazing, because I started doing this all for fun. And, when I go do stuff for fun, it's usually like I go into the woods and like try to film landscapes or animals or something. So the fact that I got to do that was awesome. And then it's just kind of like small businesses, and the next move for me is hopefully like more commercial work. And I say that by just kind of upgrading or like leveling up in what I do. So right now we're doing like docu-series stuff for Sennheiser, which is great, but I'm always telling them, hey, I want to keep doing this stuff for you, but I want to make a commercial for you.
Yeah.
And what is absolutely amazing and encouraging all at the same time is that for the first time ever in 10 years of doing this, I just made a reel. And I was always intimidated to crack the seal and try to figure out how to make a reel. I also didn't really feel like I had the footage that I wanted to put out there. And I finally did it. And not that I should have done it earlier, but it's just an amazing thing. If anybody's on the fence about making a reel or thinking about making a reel, you have to do it right now, because it's a key to everything. So you can imagine talking to somebody and saying, hey, check out my website. This is what I do. Try to ingest the 20 videos on my website, yada, 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 versus check this out. Boom. 90 seconds of in your face. This is my business card. This is what I do. Check this out. And I'm really thankful. And I'm specifically marketing to a certain clientele with my reel. It's really outdoor adventure based.
Yeah.
And then there's the Sennheiser audio stuff in there. So what I'm doing now, which is really the, maybe potentially tips and tricks if you want to get into that, but I'm sending it to a ton of people, and not just like, hey, here's my reel, check it out, but really intentionally finding the right people at the right brands and writing them like a really nice note, and just being really humble and just saying, hey, like, if this speaks to you at all, like, I would love it for you to keep me in your back pocket. And I'm it's only been a week or two since I made that reel. It feels like, and I've sent it to maybe a half dozen people, and I've heard back from 2 or 3 with like really encouraging feedback, which is huge because you can send a cold call or a cold email to 100 people and never hear back. So that's kind of where I am, and that's I'm feeling really good about that. I think I just need to be patient and wait for. It's a good time too. It's a really good time because we had some postponed gigs and some kind of canceled gigs, and like October, November, December kind of like slowed down, which after the couple years I've had, it's a good thing because I got to kind of catch up on stuff and relax and make this real. And people are potentially planning 2020 in January.
I can't believe that's your first reel though, in 10 years of doing this.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Mitch and I are both, I'll let you talk, but Mitch and I are both avid outdoors people. I think we both fly fish, and I think that's what spoke to me about the last few things you've been doing. I've followed you for a while, but then all of a sudden you started posting. You're in Turks and Caicos filming all this stuff that looks like, straight. You are doing commercials for these big brands that I can see in the shots, and I messaged you about it, and you're like, just trying to get some attention. It's like, what? It seriously looks like you had a full crew, and you are actually doing the ad. So you've been doing some really cool stuff. Seriously.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, I so appreciate that, and I just love it so much. Yeah. The thing about Turks and Caicos is one of my oldest friends in the world, if not my oldest friend in the world. He's like the best fly fishing guide in Turks and Caicos, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, it's not even close. This guy is.
I wish I would have known this because my parents were just there. I would have told my dad to hit him up.
Yeah, 1,000%. Bonefish Unlimited. His name's Will Valley. Beyond. I mean, he's got the. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong, Will, but I think he's like the only guy to catch permit, tarpon, and snook or redfish. I'm not sure, or both in Florida on the fly in one day. I think it's called the Grand Slam.
Yeah, the Grand Slam.
I don't know if he's the only guy or what, but I mean, he's just insane. I mean, like if you eat and breathe cameras and filmmaking 24 hours a day, like he does that for fishing like 60 hours a day. That's all he knows, and he's amazing. So a number of years ago, kind of before, quote unquote, before I knew what I was doing, I had a GH4 at the time in an and I shot his little commercial that lives on his website, and if I went back today, I would just have a field day. But I mean, it's like them and my buddies, using certain reels and Smith glasses and, just shooting that stuff and kind of just doing it for fun, but then seeing the potential where it's like, hey, Willie, like send my reel to those people that send you clothes or something,
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's rad. When your reel dropped, so to speak, I remember watching it right away, and it's freaking rad. I am a big fan. You have some great stuff in there.
Thank you.
And the people, it's obvious who you're marketing to, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite things I noticed about your reel is I could tell who you were going after, and that, especially talking about like sending it to people with a personalized note. I mean, it's like that's a creative resume and a cover letter right there. I love it. It's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't not put all that Sennheiser stuff in there. That because that shows, I can handle a big contract and work for a top brand. And but I clearly I made a mental note. I asked myself, like, I clearly enjoy like trekking along a river better than shooting like a tabletop product thing in a studio. Like, of course, right? So that's kind of why I did that. So the whole reel thing, we can come back to it. I don't know what the focus is, but I'm a big advocate for like sharing information and getting feedback. And before I started cutting the reel, I belonged to a lot of Facebook groups. So like Facebook camera groups, FS7 group, Red group, all of them, New York City filmmakers group, and they're just huge resources. But I asked them, I was like, hey, I'm about to cut my reel. I think I know some tips or tricks about cutting it, but what do you think? And people came back with a ton of different things. But one thing that really stuck out to me was don't put a single talking head in the reel. And I thought about it, and I was like, some of my best paid work, like what I get paid the most for, is like shooting epic, like super cinematic, studio lit, dark interviews in the best studios in the world, music studios in the world, for Sennheiser with 3 cameras, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to put a single one in there. And it's because there's not like one single answer, but if people want to hire me to do that stuff, they can go on the website and see that stuff. They can see a finished. The reality is, a client's probably gonna want to look at a finished video potentially, but that outdoor client, if I want to do a commercial for Yeti or Patagonia or name all the other brands, I would hope I could do a talking head, well. It's cool that I can. And sidebar, I'm probably going to do a fun talking head only reel, because 3 cameras times, 12 people last season and 10 people this season for Sennheiser, not to mention all the other talking heads and interviews I've ever done. I could do a talking head reel, which would be really fun. I think that would stir up a lot of attention as well. But cool. For this reel, I really wanted to put out another note was, in that first 5 to 10 seconds, people can tell like how much budget or like money is behind it. I just watched a great video, a reel, and I was like, this all looks like this person never worked for anybody. Like, these are all just like cool shots. Whereas if you watch somebody's reel that's like dropping all the brands, right off the bat, and it looks like, dude, somebody hired this guy with like budget behind it. And that's like kind of like the dream or the hope or the move. You want somebody to call you and say, we've got budget.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just like a bunch of random thought process stuff
that's
on the reel.
That's powerful though. The first 5 seconds, I'm writing things down here, taking notes.
Yeah.
Dude, that is.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing to point out.
Absolutely.
We're about to cut our reel for this year, and that's the first reel that we cut as a company together. I've been doing this for a while, like 6 years, I think. As a most of that as a freelance, and then Mitch and I joined forces, and we cut our first reel, and that was one of the pieces of feedback from a good friend that we respect was I don't want to see any talking heads.
Yeah.
And
we had already shipped it.
We had already shipped it out. we were fine with the talking heads, because I think we made that choice, and we liked that. But it's interesting to hear that that's something that spoke to you also. So we probably won't put talking heads in ours this year, but we've
also like positioned our reels the past 2 years as more of like year in reviews. So they are not your traditional 90-second reel. Each of them are like over 4 minutes, I think. So this year, I think we're going to be a little more.
Yeah, that would be too long for an in-your-face reel.
Yeah, and truthfully, our first reel that we put out, it did exactly what you said, though. I mean, it was our business card. We landed a client within 2 weeks. They said, I saw your reel online, and I had never met them before. And it was because my mother-in-law shared it. And next thing you know, we're working with one of the largest nonprofits in our region. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Big time. Yeah, well, what I did do there are plenty of portraits in the reel. So that was kind of the middle ground where I didn't put a talking head, but there are plenty of portraits that show, okay, and most of it's natural light, the whole darn thing, because the reality of my work, as much as I'd love to get hired to do some sick thing that I have to light tomorrow, I have to light the Sennheiser stuff, and it's a 3-camera long sit-down interview, and then we do a ton of B-roll and run around kind of in a doc style because we only have so much time and we need to do a lot. But so the middle ground is I put a lot of portraits in there, and hopefully that shows, okay, they're composed, they're lit, they're dreamy. Those are sweet portraits, and they're different. Some are shot from low with a wide lens or close up, and some are a bit more compressed and stuff like that. So I made sure to put those in there because I do like, you want to show good skin tones and portraits, and there's one sequence where it's like a wide portrait of a guy and a guitar sitting on a staircase in front of a house, and then I go in just like you would shooting on the day. Hey, let me come in and get a tight, and then it's just like a full-on portrait, and then you just go 1-2 punch, and hopefully that shows something without needing the talking heads.
I like that though. There's portraits in there.
Yeah,
that's a good way of thinking about it, because like I from the wedding world, I used to focus on wedding photography, and I'd always do a blog post about a wedding day, and I was trying to tell a story visually about the day, and for any potential client that was going to look at this blog post, they didn't need to see 10 of the same photo from the ceremony. I just needed one that told that story. So I like the idea of there's a portrait. They don't need to know if that was or was not a talking head. It's nice for a potential client to see the good skin tones, like well lit picture that you are able to do of a person, and that I really like thinking about it that way. That's cool.
I wanted to ask, this is more of a basic question. Do you kind of see yourself, or are you trying to position yourself more as a director in the grand scheme of things, or more as a DP, or both?
I'll tell you about myself to try to answer the question.
Yeah,
so
it works.
I love shooting. I love shooting and being a DP and being behind the camera and working with the camera. I love ACing for DPs. I've only done that once or twice, and it was like the greatest time because usually I'm in charge of everything. Yeah. Usually I'm the one-man band, the producer, the director, the DP. So I'm trying to get on bigger sets where I'm just doing one job because it's easy. That's super easy compared to what I do usually. My personality and what comes naturally to me, I don't want to sound cocky, but I will confidently say that I have strong leadership skills and communication skills, and therefore I believe I can direct, and I can take something happening here and I can bring it to the finish line.
Yeah.
So I was recently on a shoot where the client, producer, director, things just right off the bat, things weren't going right. Talent was showing up late, and there was just a ton of coaching that needed to be done the person in front of the camera just needed a ton of coaching. And at the end of the day, based on everything I had to do, which it was a really big like DP job too, I was like, I'm a freaking director. Like I was the director the whole day. Like, this is like wall easy rigging, you know? Like, so I would love to be, if there is such a thing like DP/director, I always want to have my hand somewhere. So I wouldn't mind getting hired as a director, but like I'll take an example of like a short film that I want to do. I want to do my very first short film. It's only going to be 8 to 10 minutes. It's just a quick story of my own self. And I know a story of my childhood. I know that I shouldn't be behind the camera the whole time. I should be directing. I want my buddy Zach, who is your buddy as well. He's kind of like my right-hand man, like somebody I feel more confident in than anybody else locally. Just, we're over here in Connecticut. We're not in downtown New York or LA where there's everybody else is a creative. There's not a ton of people over here. I have full confidence in him to DP and camera operate it, but I would probably consider myself the director DP of the shoot. He will be on camera the whole time, and I'm using this as an example. Nothing against Zach. Zach's amazing. He's probably better than me. That's why I hire him, because he makes me look better than I am in everything I do. But I'm using this as an example to say, like, I would be director DP. He would be cam opping.
Yeah.
But every single frame is in my head, so I have to, like, it's in my head. I have the DP mind. I don't know if that answers anything.
No,
but,
that makes total sense. Do you know Reed Morano?
No.
Reed Morano's
I'm sorry that I don't.
Oh, no. She's a director that Mitch and I both are fascinated with. She's done a lot of films that have gone into like all the different film festivals, but then she's done some major feature films, and then she was the director of the first 3 episodes of Handmaid's Tale. But she's a director cinematographer. Most of the stuff she shoots, she's the one operating the camera.
She's one of the few that I like actually know of.
Yeah.
That at least does it well.
Yeah, does it well.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense. And then there's Ryan Booth, who has been a DP solely for a long time until somebody told him,
You're a director.
You're a director.
And he actually had to, his first few projects directing, he specifically chose to shoot on film with a DP who shot on film. So because he didn't have experience shooting on film, and so cool. That forced him to give up all control because it's something that he didn't have experience with. Now he shoots on, the Alexa Mini and Alexa LF and all that stuff all the time. But his first few projects, he was like, I need to give up all control.
No, you guys have to send me an email with all these people I should know and connect with after this, and I'll do the same. Where are you guys located?
Washington State. So we're in Spokane, which is, we talked to Zach.
That's the one place I haven't been is Pacific Northwest, and I just know like how epic it is, like the giant rainforests and, oh man, I gotta go there.
Yeah, make it up here, man.
Make it up here. Let's go fish.
Yeah, let's go fish. We are like...
There's a guy, I think his name, I have to look on my Instagram, his name's like Daniel Brownlee or something. He shoots on FS7. I love calling people's doppelgangers out, like as a thing. Like I call people's doppelgangers out all the time. And like the people with me will be like, that's a good one, because that person actually does look like that person. But there's a guy in Pacific Northwest in Washington that is like as Jack Diesel as Zach Trinka and shoots FS7 and has the same beard and like looks exactly like him. And it's the Pacific Northwest version of Zach Trinka.
We need to find this guy.
we need to find him.
I told them both too.
That's funny.
That's awesome. Yeah. we are privy to some of the best fisheries in the country, if not the world, and
then we've got some of the best ski mountains and ski resorts within, if not 45 minutes, couple hours right outside of our town right here.
We're not quite Colorado for the ski resorts, but
there's a ton of stories to be had over there. Obviously, like all the fisheries and all the industry and plants that are trying to or the mines that are trying to get set up and then ruin like the salmon fishery and like all of British Columbia and stuff. I've seen some. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine.
Okay, wait. So I want to backtrack. Right before Mitch walked in, we started diving into how you got into filmmaking. Can you kind of go back, tell us why you picked up a camera and give us like a summary of the last 5 years?
Or 10 years with the...
Well, he said 10 years, so you can go 10 years.
Yeah.
But then you started telling me about like the last 5,
Yeah.
and I was fascinated with how big...
Yeah. I mean, I can be short and to the point, and then you guys can ask me where to elaborate if you want. But both my parents are artists. My dad was a photographer. My mom paints and was a makeup artist and a model, and my dad was... It's just all that stuff is like deep in my blood, but my dad wasn't a photographer when I was growing up. So that stuff wasn't around. It was just like around back in the day. So I wasn't ever into ever taking pictures or shooting video. That like wasn't a passion of mine. And for some crazy reason, I think my mom bought me a little point and shoot camera in 2009, 2010, and I started taking a couple pictures. And this is right when I like maybe just got on Facebook for the first time, and everybody had like Blackberries, and you know, I had this, I know it was a Canon Digital Elf was the point and shoot camera. They still make those cameras.
Yeah.
I took maybe a dozen pictures over the course of a couple months, and I was kind of like going back and like showing my dad, who's like really critical in a good way. He's like telling me like why it's not as good as it could be and stuff like that. And he's talking about like the light and the exposure, and he's telling me like you have to be really critical with your work. And graduated college, bought myself a camera as a present. Why did I do that? I have no idea. It was a Lumix GF1. I think Micro Four Thirds had just come out. It came with a 20 millimeter f1.7, which I asked a buddy of mine who I was working with, who was a photographer, and he's like, "Oh, that's a wide lens," and I was like, "Oh, great," but it was actually a 40 because there's a crop factor. I didn't have a clue. I remember I called him and I was like, trying to do long exposures. I'm like, "Why is it white?" And he's like, "Oh, because I didn't have a clue." So I just went down the rabbit hole of teaching myself photography, like all day, every day. Just fell in love for some crazy reason. I don't know. It was it. And the short version is here I am today. But the longer version is just all day, every day, learn something new. I was on like Flickr at the time, like looking at stuff. I would see something and then I would Google how to do it. And I sold the GF1 on eBay for more than I paid for it. And I was instantly hooked on buying and selling gear. And I bought a GH1, and then I started shooting some video. I went on a rock climbing trip with some friends who were like big in the industry. So I took some really cool pictures that got into like a little magazine, and I just fell in love. And I just all day, every day for the last 10 years, just trying to learn more, shoot more, get better, learn something new every single day on every single shoot. I was so back then when I graduated college and bought that camera, I was working at a rock climbing gym, and a couple months or years went by and I started a restaurant that was kind of like this old family restaurant we had. Did that for 3 years. kind of ran that. So that kind of going back to the director thing, like I was like running the whole thing. And I had a little taste of freelance photo video, like in that time I was working there, like 60 hours a week, making no money because it was my place. And I would take pictures of the food and all the time. And then 3 years later, I just felt like this big call and this big like vibe, like I gotta get out of here and I have to do photo video full time. And at that very moment, people at my church said the exact same thing. They said, we're going to bring this in-house, photo and video in-house, and we have a position at 20 hours a week. And you're the guy for it. Because, backtrack, I was going on like mission trips with them over the course of the last 3 years, shooting their recap videos, and I thought I was doing a great job, and so did they. So for fun, I'd buy a new lens or a camera, and I would show up on Sunday and just take pictures of like the church service and then just send it to them. And they're like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a crazy journey. It's like a leveling up thing. I don't really know how to, it's a long game. Like people send me messages or ask me questions like, hey, how do you do this? And it's like, dude, it boils down to, do you love it? And if the answer is yes, then just keep doing it.
And if you do love it, you will keep doing it.
Yeah.
And share your work, because all throughout those years, I was posting photos, not asking anybody for anything. I was just sharing my work on Facebook. And then years later, you get a text or a phone call or a message from someone you went to high school with. I tell people all this time, somebody you went to high school with, and they're like, hey, I work at a lawyer's office. Can you take our headshots? And I'm like, yeah. And then I Google like how to take corporate headshots, so that's like, but you have to share your work, because if you're not sharing your work, I'm telling people this all the time, like people don't know what you do, and your passion bleeds out and people are attracted to that.
Sharing your work is key, for sure. Are you still involved at the church for video work, or has that been something you've since?
Yeah, I've been there for about 4 or 5 years since that first year. The first year I worked 20 hours a week, and then I said to myself, okay, I need to supplement this income with freelance, and it's perfect because I have a 20-hour-a-week solid job, and now I have 20 hours a week to go find work. So what I did was I called a friend who's a big realtor in town, and then I had one picture of this like super wide interior, and we live in like a very affluent area in the country, and you drive up the road and there's just like crazy houses that are, the average house in like the backcountry, if you were to drive, like I've taken countless number of pictures and videos of houses that are anywhere from $5 to $20 million. And so I had this one picture of this house that she let me take or something. And then I brought that to all the agencies, the real estate agencies in town. And I basically like, I want to be a real estate photographer. And 3 years later, I was doing that all the time. So I was supplementing the church's income with real estate photography and videos eventually. And did that a lot, surpassed my expectations that first year with that. And then the second year with the church, I went to 30 hours a week. The third year with the church, I went to 40 hours a week. So I was in a position at the time like, yeah, like I'm going to do this, because the church has been actually very great for a number of reasons, but stimulating in a sense that I do capture people's stories all the time. I mean, if you go to their website, it's trinitychurch.life /videos. You'll see like dozens of talking heads of people's stories where I just do it with my eyes closed. I show up to somebody's house or capture somebody's story on a Sunday. We're talking for 5-10 minutes. They just tell me their entire story. And I cut it up into a 2-minute thing, and it's like a super powerful story, and we play it on a Sunday. So I do that for them all the time. Photos, videos, social media, stuff like that. My wife's the graphic designer, and we have a studio and an office there. So I'm able to work there and then have my freelance business. So when I got the Sennheiser gig 2 years ago, I went back to 30 hours a week because I said, okay, here we go. Here's this big opportunity with Sennheiser. I can make this work, and it's actually better if I start cutting back on the church now. So I went down 30 hours a week with the church to make room for the Sennheiser contract. And then when OceanX contacted me earlier this year, I had to reevaluate my life and go, okay, here's the move. And so now I'm down to like 22 hours a week.
Cool.
So I went from 20, 30, 40 hours a week, and now I've gone down to 30,
Yeah.
20 hours a week, making room for more freelance, which is great.
Can you elaborate on, or just tell the story, period, on how you were able to get Sennheiser as a client, and then maybe OceanX after that?
An old friend of mine who I went to high school with works for Sennheiser. He's the marketing manager at Sennheiser. Sennheiser has their U.S. offices about an hour north of here in Connecticut, in this no man's land between like Rhode Island and Connecticut. It's about an hour and a half up. And he went to high school with me. We didn't really know each other or weren't really friends in high school, but a couple years ago, he really started to get into like night photography, like New York City, long exposures, rooftops, that kind of stuff. And he was really pushing, doing that like every day. And we just instantly kind of reconnected because we had that photography Instagram connection. So we started talking, and we ended up meeting up and taking some pictures. I flew a drone. It was totally like just a fun thing. It was like in the woods, and we were just out making pictures. And I asked him what he did, and he told me what he did. He basically told me that he's in charge of hiring production companies to make commercials for Sennheiser. And I tried to keep my cool, and he'll explain it the same way. It's so funny. I told him, I said, listen, I'm not going to bug you now. Like, I'm not going to bug you right now, but I'm going to bug you because what you're saying is exactly what I want to do. So we went our separate ways, and not a week later he called me and he said, hey, we have an opportunity in Boulder, Colorado. Do you want to make this happen? And I said, yes. And this was like, I was like born. It was like I was born for this moment, you know? It was like I've been nonstop for the last 5 to 8 years of just getting to the place where I'm competent enough to do what this guy's about to ask me to do. And I had two 1DX Mark IIs at the time. I was doing a lot of photo and video at the same time. Those are great cameras. Did a lot of event photography and stuff like that, so they were appropriate. And the 4K 60 was great on those, and still is. So we went to Colorado, and we went to a church. Not ironically enough, but it was a great, it was two birds with one stone kind of thing, because I felt comfortable there, and I felt comfortable in both situations. So it was a mega church. I might be getting too specific, but we interviewed this front of house mixer, this audio engineer at the church, and we did the Sennheiser Pro Talk for a house of worship. It was the first time Sennheiser was ever going to market to the house of worship audience. And absolutely just did what I did because I loved it. Spent 2 days, and definitely the biggest video of my life at the time, and just absolutely crushed it. And they were like, and then so that was that, and that was amazing. And we still talk about that's one of our favorite videos. I just put it on the website again. And then he called me probably a number of months later and said, do you want to do the entire season 2 of Pro Talk? And I was like,
Let me
yeah.
think about it. Let me think about it.
Obviously, So it was basically what we did for this person for this guy at the church in Colorado times 12 all over the world for like high-level audio professionals. And the first trip we did was Leslie Ann Jones, who is at Skywalker Sound, which is George Lucas's place in San Francisco, who did like all the music for everything. Mostly, like everything. And then Blake Mills was in LA. He's a big guitar songwriter, producer, and he is taking up residency in Sound City Studios, which is where like all this stuff is blanking on me now, but like
I'm familiar.
Nirvana, Nirvana, and there was a whole documentary on it with Dave Grohl bought the board and stuff like that.
And Zach Brown Band recorded his album
do
with
know.
Dave Grohl there.
And then Randy Faustino is the mixer for American Idol. So when you hear what you hear on TV is what he's mixing in his trailer. So that was the first trip, those 3 names, and then we did like it was insane. My wife and I had never been to Europe. We had a little jar when we got married 3 years ago. We had a little jar on our dresser that says Europe in it, and we put like 50 cents in it. And then since doing Sennheiser and being married, we've been to Oslo, Norway, Paris, London twice, Germany, Amsterdam, Romania.
That's awesome.
That's so special.
Serious. And so we are halfway through shooting season 3 right now. So we've stayed a lot. We've stayed kind of stateside, and a couple things we had something in Barcelona, but there were riots a couple months ago, so that got postponed, and we had something in Mexico City that got postponed. But we're halfway through season 3, and we've been to Nashville. Did that for the first time. We interviewed 3 people in Nashville. We did St. Louis, and we did New York and all that stuff. So
heck yeah.
That's the Sennheiser story, and I'm trying, and they're all happy, and we're doing Pro Talk, and I've hired an editor out of Atlanta. He's a buddy of mine, so he came up. He worked with me at the church a couple of years, so I bring him up, and he interned with me over the summer, and I kind of taught him exactly how I edit and want to edit. So he basically is like, does what I would do, which is huge.
Yeah.
Because 36, we turn each Sennheiser interview into 3 episodes. So it's a lot. And I don't want to be sitting behind a computer. I want to be out shooting.
Yeah.
Not just for passion, but you can make, I can be shooting while he's editing, and it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then the OceanX thing, my oldest friends in the world, kind of a connection to the Bonefish guy, Will, is just a good old friend and kind of connected, and a friend, but not like a super close friend. Basically like runs the whole show over there at OceanX. And I called him and I called him one night after getting off the phone with the Bonefish guy's brother, and he kind of like re-motivated me. He's like, hey, dude, you have to talk to this guy because he has it going on. I was like, and I was super hyped, and I called him and I was like, hey, dude, I'll do anything. And he was like, oh, you don't just DP? And I was like, no, dude, I'll do anything. Like, and then not 2 weeks later, I get an email that's like, hey, you want to go to Bahamas for 2 weeks? Hey, you want to go to Bahamas and Haiti for 4 weeks? And on OceanX, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because I had like job posting from Alusha Productions, which is OceanX, on like my email just for fun, because it was like a dream thing.
Yeah. Like,
that's insane. That's like, they shot Blue Planet. I mean, so that was a dream. That was insane.
That is so cool. And so, was that a 2 to 6 week gig, and then you're cutting up a bunch of stories out of that, or?
So, okay, I need to take a sidebar and pause. So my, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this file because the sun has kind of gone away. So now I'm all underexposed. So, which is fine. Who cares? It's just a podcast, right?
And
I have a little bit more light. I don't rate the FS7 at 800 EI like everybody else. I shoot at 2000 because I use these Alexa LUTs and they're awesome. So
Oh yeah, so
it'll be fun.
Yeah, us too.
Okay, then you'll be good.
We'll be good.
So OceanX was 25 days on a big boat, and I was internally really, really scared. Just dealt with a lot of anxiety the last number of years for the first time in my life, and my sinuses and my equilibrium has been really off the last number of years. Just like, I don't know if it's allergies or stress or what, but everything, it worked out. But it was like, I wasn't like the man, like, yeah, dude, I'm going to go on OceanX. Internally, I was like, crap. Like, just holding on to and trusting that it's going to be okay. And it was awesome. And we were there for 25 days. I was the top water camera operator. I did all the audio, and then I DIT'd. And there's going to be 3 films that come out from our time there, and actually 2 of them are already out, and it's amazing. And they're the top 2 films on the top of my website because they're freaking awesome. And
that's sweet.
And one is the first one is the deep water sharks, and the second one is the juvenile oceanic white-tip sharks, the baby sharks in Hawaii. And then the third one, from what I think I know, will be the people of Haiti. So the human story around the baby sharks of Haiti. And it was all shot on Red, which was very fun because that was the first Red camera I bought and owned. And that was just very encouraging because they most likely maybe would have not hired me if I wasn't Red proficient and didn't own one. That was a plus. So that was kind of a good affirmation and confirmation of like, yeah, this is working. You're doing this.
So
like,
you say
works,
it's the first one. Do you have a number of Red cameras that you are in your arsenal?
I literally 2 days ago sold the Red Dragon 6K.
I saw that.
To a guy in British Columbia, Canada, and he's happy. He's got it, and I was waiting to sell it. I've been sitting on this plan for weeks, and I just got the Gemini.
Heck
Yes,
yeah.
dude. I saw. I've been following that whole thing. So talk to us about your cameras that you're using right now.
I have an A7S II, starting at the bottom. I have an A7S II. I've had as many as I've had as many as 4 A7S2s at the exact same time. We did a multicam shoot for a worship band where we did 4 A7S2s, an FS5, and 2 FS7s. So I bought 4 A7S2s used and then ended up selling them. I like buying and selling used equipment.
I think I saw that shoot. Was Zach on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just bought a GH5S for the church because we had some GH4s, and I was also interested in the GH5S. I have 2 FS7s. I had one for a long time. I did the Pro Talk Season 2 with 1 FS7 and 2 A7S2s. And I claim to be able to match those cameras flawlessly in post, which I can, but I know how to do it, and there's limitations. And buying a second FS7 and then hiring Zach to be the third FS7 has saved me a lot of time and post matching, and therefore money, because time is money. So if I save 100 hours, whatever, I'm not going to try to do the math now, but if I save 100 hours in post over the course of the year at $50 an hour, that's $5,000. There's an FS7 right there. So 2 FS7s is sweet. One can live on a gimbal, one can live on a big studio rig. It's just been really nice to have both, and they're they're the tool for the job. Seriously, we can get into a conversation about how much I love that camera and how I'm not going to get an FX9, and the FS7 is just awesome. But I got a Red Dragon 6K, which I sold now, and now I have the Gemini, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why that as well, you know?
Yeah.
There's a reason why, you know, OceanX wanted everything shot on Red. You know, there's a reason why I do all the Pro Talk series stuff on FS7s, because that's the right tool for the job. But if and when Sennheiser wants a commercial that they're going to pay for and we're not going to shoot, you know, 3 cameras rolling all day. We're going to shoot 1 or 2, and they want it to be, and they have the budget for it. The Red is going to be, you know, potentially a better choice. And, you know, as much as I love the FS7 image, which I do tremendously, there's just something about that Red image and that new DSMC2 like tight little body with the handle and the ability to take that wherever. You know, that was a big reason why I went from DSMC2 to 1. Audio was a big issue on the 1. It was a bigger, you know, I'm potentially going to go to Honduras and Kenya this year on nonprofit trips, not to mention others. And I went to Colombia a couple years ago and did a video for a coffee farm. I would have loved to just have the Red right there, the little Red, boom. And I couldn't do that with the DSMC1 Epic because I needed the Sound Devices Mix Pre 3 on there, and it's just awesome. And the Gemini, because of all the dock work, I can get clean images up to 3,200, 4,000, 5,000. That's why it was the Gemini. You guys are looking at each other like, yeah, that's why we need.
We've talked about, just on the topic of the cameras, we've talked about Red. For like Mitch and I are long game. We're interested in doing original content, like feature films and narrative TV shows. We have stories that we'd like to write and direct ourselves, and we're super interested in Arri cameras. We do have friends that are all Red, and I love that Red is a super clean, high dynamic range image. It's the best sensor. It's the best post process. It's the best all this stuff. But there's something about the film vibe of Arri that fascinates both of us as artists, and so that's the route that we would go. But I love hearing you talk about the Gemini, because I know so like our commercial work is all going to stay under Inland Film Co., and I think there might be a day that Inland goes with, if we get jobs that need Red, maybe we'll go with a Gemini because of the, you know, you can push the ISO.
That would be my favorite. That would be my pick.
Yeah, it's
Red,
such a cool
Red camera. I mean,
I like knowing that that's what you went with.
I'll
coming
tell
from
you,
the Sony world.
Yeah, and I think we all agree. I was heavily. I was just talking to a friend who's like, he has an Epic. He's a great guy. This guy Paul Collar. He's a great DP. He hired me to do some Soul Cycle stuff. He's a great guy. He's in LA, and I was literally texting with him right before this. I'm always sending him like camera tests, and we're coloring stuff, and we're sharing stuff, and we're hoping to hire each other, you know, like big time this year. And I can get a sense from him, like he's an Arri Mini guy. Like he doesn't own one, but he rents the Arri Mini as like the Alexa Mini is the standard, obviously. So to put it into perspective, I actually haven't used an Arri, and so here's the thing. I was heavily considering, if it wasn't a Gemini, it was going to be an Amira. Yeah. So I feel like the Amira is Arri's version of an FS7.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you why I didn't get an Amira and I got the Gemini. Because when I go to Honduras, when I go to Kenya, when I go fly fishing, I'm not going to be able to bring the Amira to places where I can bring the Gemini.
Yeah.
Gemini Gemini's that big. The Amira is that big.
Yeah.
So that my work, like if I was doing narrative stuff, you can do it all with Gemini. So I made the right decision. But if I was doing narrative stuff, or I was doing stuff where people were okay with 3.2 to 4K, and I wanted that image, that would have been the move. And it's also, I tell people this all the time because they're like, what should I buy? And I have a friend that's like buying all this stuff. You should buy the right tool for the job. So if somebody calls me tomorrow and I need to own an Amira and it's going to be worth it to me, I could buy an Amira, or I could rent an Amira, or I could own an Amira, or I could sell the Gemini and buy an Amira if that was the right tool for the job. But for me, in that outdoor sports, extreme sports, OceanX, commercials, the Red is the right decision, if not the standard, in those first categories.
No, absolutely.
Right? And the only thing size-wise that would come close to the Gemini is a mini, built really, really small. And there are a lot of clients, and there's really nice reasons why pulling a 5, 6, or 8K screen grab out of your footage is important to some people with lower budgets and multiple deliverables. Not to mention, the Gemini is in the 15 to 20K range, and a mini package is in the 40 to 50K range. So
I hope that it wasn't implied that
no.
that it wasn't the right decision. I think that camera.
No, it wasn't at all. I say all that stuff just to, not you guys because but to potentially educate like viewers.
Yep.
That's the only reason why I'd ever share that stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I
get you.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the work that comes out
seriously
that you're producing with it. So.
We have a buddy up here in Spokane who shoots a lot of outdoor documentaries that he'll usually be hired as the cinematographer because he has a Red. He's got the helium sensor. I don't know which camera model he has, but I know that he, for all the reasons you just described, he's all about the Red, the new the DSM-C 2, right?
Yeah.
That package, being able to have it so small and handheld, but still get all that stuff out of it. That's why he uses it. He's flying to Alaska, and he's out in like the middle of nowhere shooting ski films and mountain biking stuff all the time. So that's it. It's the tool for the job.
He's in Utah like every other week, it seems like.
It's stupid. Last night he texted us and said, "Guys, I'm going up to the mountain tomorrow morning. You want to join?"
Dude, sorry.
No, sorry. That sounds amazing. So I don't want to. We want to respect your time. Also, our AirPods just
gave us a notification.
It's about to die, but I want to respect your time. We have a couple of questions towards the end here. Can you give us some names of inspirations that you have? I don't know, like oftentimes we go for directors or films that inspire you, but I don't know if you want to go in the documentary world or the commercial world. Mm-hmm. Who's inspiring you right now?
Well, just to tell you who I am, narrative work. One of my favorite movies is Sicario.
Oh,
just the first one.
Okay.
Denis.
I mean, yeah, just watch. If anybody's listening and hasn't seen Sicario, just watch it. Everything about it, not just visually, just the story and the actors and actresses and emotions and.
Can I interrupt you really quick? This is a spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen Sicario and you're listening to this, then like pause it and go watch Sicario, and you probably won't come back and listen to the rest. But regardless, my favorite moment of that movie was in the end when Benicio del Toro's character, I forget his name in the film, is when he walks up to the family and he says Spanish, or he says English or Spanish or whatever,
and points at the family.
He points at the family, and he can tell that the family can't speak English. So he goes, "We'll speak English then." and then he tells him like how much of a monster he was, and he tells him like how terrible, like all these things he did. And and then he goes on to kill the family. And what I loved about that was like his little bit of mercy that he gave the kids at the end of the film was not sharing with them how terrible their father was. So they died thinking that he was the monster. That was the little bit of grace, the little bit of grace that he gave the kids, was them dying thinking that their father was still a great human being.
Yeah, that movie's so great. I was thinking about how intense it is when that guy from the bar and the girl start fighting.
Yeah.
You know, like in her house, like that's just intense.
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men is like,
Absolutely.
you know, just like if you're a landscape, you know, at least for me, like I would hope that that's the type of film that I would make, you know, because when I go shoot something, it's like I would hope that it's those landscapes and those portraits and just those compositions, you know, that's how I feel, you know. An old movie that's great if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen it in a long, long time, not visually on that same level, this is an older movie, is The Edge with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin.
And this is they're out in the snow, right?
Yeah, and they're being hunted by a bear.
Yep.
I know that.
And
Okay.
they're in Alaska.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie in
And
a long time.
That's like a childhood movie for me, and the background soundtrack, like the music score, is just, I freaking love it. Like, get some hot chocolate and watch that. But a friend of mine who I'm talking to about a short film, and he's kind of like a self-taught. I don't have a ton of narrative film education at all. I just know what I like. I just do what I can and know, and I like that approach. But he's got some great insight for me, and he told me, he's like, a great movie can spoil the ending in the beginning of the movie without you knowing it. And there's a moment in The Edge, and I have to go rewatch it again or watch another movie. But a friend of mine explained to me that like they basically like tell you, they like give you this vibe like in the beginning of the movie. And it's like the ending, but you don't know that when you're watching it because you just started the movie.
Yeah.
It has to do with Anthony Hopkins is a very smart guy who reads. He's a really wealthy guy, and his wife says, "Hey, you can ask him anything. He knows all the answers." And the owner of the cabin says, "Oh, that's a pretty serious statement." And Anthony Hopkins go, "I didn't say it." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So, and he looks around and he finds this canoe paddle that has a Black Panther on one of the paddles. And he says, "Okay, hey, tell me what's on the back of this paddle, and I'll give you $5. And he thinks about it for a second, and he goes, "It's a rabbit smoking a pipe." And he goes, "How'd you know that?" And he goes, "It's an old native thing." And he goes, "Why is the rabbit smoking the pipe?" "Because the rabbit's unafraid, because he's smarter than the panther." You don't know it, but at the very end of the movie, and I just kind of got goosebumps. The Alec Baldwin is the panther, and Anthony Hopkins is the rabbit smoking the pipe that is smarter than the panther.
It's freaking awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I love. I got to work on OceanX. I mean, this is insane, but Andy Mann is a huge climbing and underwater photographer and filmmaker. That's just awesome. Planet Earth, Blue Planet, The Hunt, all those insane, outdoor animal documentaries. It's just insane. I got to work. The director was Jansen Powers, who I didn't know who he was. And my buddies were like, "Do you know him?" And I was like, "No." And then I looked him up and hung out with him for 25 days. He's amazing. Definitely inspired by both of their work for sure. There's a balance. A guy online a couple of years ago said something about, especially with Instagram, if you're just looking at other people's work all day, like you're whether you like it or not, you're probably gonna most likely subconsciously copy it. I feel like at a level of like Sicario or just like all the epic stuff you see, whether it's a Yeti commercial or a Patagonia commercial or just there's a certain, you will intake all this stuff if you're self-taught. For that first 5 to 10 years, you potentially will intake it all, but there comes a time where you stop watching, or you start to watch less and less and less of other people's stuff or YouTube tutorials, and you start to kind of hopefully go on your own journey. And of course, I still look at people's stuff, but it's not like it used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I think like Gary Vaynerchuk is big on creating, stop consuming and start creating. And I watch YouTube tutorials all the time right now, but it's definitely become less and less and less, and it's becoming our own journey. I like the way that you said that. This
has been a great conversation, and I'm happy that we've started the journey of getting to know each other.
Absolutely. I so appreciate the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope you make it up to the Pacific Northwest, and we can go shoot some stuff together.
I would love that. I
think this is a pretty productive conversation. You told us a lot, and I'm grateful for your stories and your background, and it's just cool to see the journey that you've been on and where it's taken you, and that call inside that you couldn't ignore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, and I look forward to getting to know you guys better and asking, getting your stories.
Absolutely. Thanks, Julien Jarry.
Everybody says Jerry, and where's the E? If it's Jerry, where's the E?
The reason I said the E is because did I send this? You did.
I did. I misspelled it on our calendar.
Oh no, that's okay. People do that. That's cool. I see it.
It's my fault that he said Jerry.
Said Jerry, and so in my mind, I didn't go to Instagram. I went to the
Well, you know what?
I follow you on Instagram.
You guys aren't the only one.
I follow you on Instagram, and I should have just.
I sent my reel to a guy who connected me with like this big time dude, and I wrote to him and I said, I hope to hear from you back soon. I'm looking forward to it. And I signed it Julien Jarry. And he wrote me back an email and he said, thanks, Jerry. Like, he's calling me Jerry. Like Jerry is my first name.
Yeah.
And he's like, thanks, Jerry. Like, we'll be in touch. And it's like, that happens all the time. I don't know what it is, but.
Thanks, Jerry.
We had some guy reach out to us. He essentially wanted to use the name Daily Reel, but like add a word to it and for his own experiment on Instagram, which it's like I can't tell him necessarily not to or whatever, but his email to us was, hi, Sam and Josh. And I'm like, Josh?
Where did Josh come from?
My name is Mitch.
Yeah. We also had someone stop into our office one time. A local newspaper up here they started a digital sector where they were going to help local businesses advertise themselves. And this lady was a new hire. She came in from out of town, and she was just knocking on doors. She walked in, she talked to us for a minute, and we're like, you don't even know what we do. I'm sorry, you are not going to be able to help us. We gave her cards. She left. She sent us an email later to say, hey, thanks for meeting really quick, Sam and Kevin. Where did Kevin come from? I don't even get.
So my name is it's
Kevin and Josh.
Kevin and Josh. I don't know. Maybe I just give that vibe off. Yeah. I don't know.
And you give off the vibe of a Jerry. You know?
Jerry. And then, Instagram is obviously international, and some 9-year-old French kid has Julien Jarry, the handle. So I had to add my middle initial, which is Julien A. Jarry. So some people from other countries think my name is Juliana because Man. But that's just the way it is. But it doesn't matter. I mean, who cares?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Well, Julien, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time. And
thank you.
Keep us posted on these journeys across the world, across the globe that you go on, and
so very much appreciate it. We'll do. You guys keep in touch, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the Cinetherapy Podcast. Special thanks to Julien Jarry for joining us in this conversation and for continuing to engage in our friendship over the internet as filmmakers. Be sure to check out the description of this page where we've included links to everything we talked about today, including Julien's film reel, his work with Sennheiser, and his work with OceanX. And that's a wrap.